Are we expecting, we've got Bobby and we've got Dave. Are we expecting Kathleen?
I'm not sure about that, actually. She said she was coming.
Oh, did she? Oh,
I'm not sure.
Who else is usually here?
Chris? Wonder, somebody had a conflict, I thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll go ahead and get started because it's 9 o'clock. It's a little after 9 and all of our council members are here.
Sounds good.
Okay, so I will call to, are we recording?
It's recording.
Okay, I will call to order the Economic Development Tourism Committee meeting for February 13th. And at the table for our first agenda item, we have representatives from the Port Orchard Bay Street Association and the Chamber of Commerce. They're invited to participate. The first thing, and for those in the audience, for the last 3 or 4 meetings, we've invited members of our Chamber of Commerce from the Board of Directors and POBSA to discuss educational opportunities and how the city can be of assistance to our local merchants. So the first thing on that part of the agenda is the recap of the Roger Brooks presentation. And Bobby was there,
I missed it.
Dave missed it, Brandy was there, and Brandy, you took notes, and I believe the notes are in our packet. Did we get those to POBSA and the Chamber?
No, those are just notes that I took, but I
Okay.
thought, oh, these are the points that I got out of the webinar, so I didn't know if you wanted me to pass them out to everybody, but I'd be happy to share it with everybody, electronic format.
I think we should. It was a fairly inclusive notes. I think you hit on everything. Bobby, did you have anything to add? Because you went to that?
I thought it was outstanding, actually. And I walked around town a little bit, asking them if, if they had ideas on the branding, on a definite idea. And of course, everyone, will think about it. But I hope that more come this Wednesday.
Okay, and it's not this Wednesday, it's the 22nd.
22nd.
The 22nd, and it's on the Ultimate Guide to Brand and Messaging, and we just literally, with the last few minutes, sent out the press release notice.
Okay,
22nd.
right.
Excuse me, do you know what time it is?
8:30 a.m.
I think they're consistently 8:30 because we're Pacific Coast time and they do it nationwide. But I don't know that it's locked into, like, I'm assuming you were thinking it's the third
I
Wednesday,
did.
and I'm not sure that that's the case.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah. But you got a press release out, and if you could share it with POBSA, a reminder, and if we could also get Matt a reminder to get it out to chamber members, that's the easiest way, I think, for us to contact most of our merchants.
They should have reached them, but I'll just double check.
Okay.
Again, the date of that is what?
February 22nd. And I suspect we have a conflict again with the Land Use Committee, so,
They haven't
No.
scheduled yet, I
Okay.
think, right?
It was going to be day after tomorrow, but it's
Oh.
canceled.
oh, it's canceled, okay.
And
Okay.
I can the chamber because I'm vice president, so I'll just
Okay.
make sure that
Okay.
he's in Hawaii right now.
Oh, okay, then we don't want to disturb
Reach
him.
out.
Yeah.
I know.
So I too felt it useful. I was able to attend and I felt it useful. The first one I thought was too lengthy. Mr. Brooks rambled a bit, and at the end he did say that he would condense it next time to make sure it was done within an hour.
When I took 2 pages of notes, I thought it was very easy to take notes the way you presented it. I liked it.
Okay. Then we will go on to, it's our understanding that the POBSA January had an open forum meeting, and is there anything that you wanted to share from that?
The open forum meeting, there was a lot of good feedback. Gosh, we talked consistency in hours. That had a long discussion. And and there was all kinds of viewpoints. The majority of the room that was there were open pretty consistent hours. We were hoping for some dialogue with people that, weren't open on Sundays and, had more limited hours. Everybody there was open on Saturday and Sunday. But the discussion was good. It was, I think everybody agrees, it's just getting everybody to get on the same board.
A question, you said that the people that were there had consistent hours, and I would imagine the businesses do, but was there any conversation about common hours?
Well, correct me, common hours. I mean, when we were talking, when our discussion is about Saturday, Sundays, I think that's the biggest focal point for us, is having everybody open, and maybe a little later hours. And so the folks that were there commonly were open on Saturday.
Sunday,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, and so we didn't, there wasn't much opposition there really to, for anybody to say, well, I don't want to open Sunday, it's religious holiday, it's religious for me or something, whatever their reason is, or I need a day off too. There wasn't, much discussion, so the dialogue was pretty plain. But got them talking. Then Kathleen sent out a poll afterwards during the week, and just to do a questionnaire actually about what hours are you open now, and basically it was an information gathering. And there was some comment section on that, I believe, too, to talk back about us doing common hours. So we haven't got the results of that yet, but that'll be in it.
I think at our meeting too, they felt that Sunday was 11 to 5. Remember we talked about that?
Right.
They felt that was good hours for
Right.
Sunday.
Yeah.
Are those the hours that we came back from Bremerton? Did they want 11 to 5 or 11 to 6 on Sunday?
I thought it was 11 to 6.
Yeah, it could have been. Could have been. My other
Because I think it
question,
used to be 10 to 5, and they said, hey, come, whether you start later
it was
and
10 to
stay
5,
later.
right.
That's what I
Okay.
recall.
The other question I have is, I realize Saturday and Sunday is important, and that was a focus. But we have a few businesses downtown right now that are not open Monday through Friday. Was that discussed at all? And was it discussed how the hours of one business impacts their neighbor's business?
There was discussion. There wasn't.
No,
Go ahead.
action, or no
No action.
necessarily agreement,
No,
just
actually,
discussion.
I think that this was our first forum type meeting, and so it was really information gathering.
Correct.
And it was also, I think, a little learning experience on how to conduct one of these type meetings, and to kind of get the group engaged with it. Okay, this is what this is going to be about. Now we're talking about having one of those meetings once a quarter, I believe,
Okay.
and so an open forum type meeting once a quarter. So I think this was like
Number one.
number one.
to start.
So now they kind of understand the concept, and I think a lot of people didn't speak, but I think as they get used to it, say, hey, it's safe room, let's go ahead and talk.
Right.
And so it was a good start. It was a good start of a meeting. The other thing that came out of it is a gentleman from Slaughter County,
Scott.
Scott. Yeah, there was information gathering and how we disseminate information, how we communicate as a group. And so he has started up a list. I can't remember what they specifically call it, but it's one of these.
To listserv type thing.
Yes.
Yeah, listserv. Yeah, yeah. And so he actually got a listing of membership, and he started this listserv, is what it's called. Yeah. And so he sent this out, and he's created a site now where all the downtown merchants can communicate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, straight off, instead of going through like the POPSA site,
Okay.
it's like they can have one-on-one communications through this listserv. And so he's already got that going up
Oh,
and running, so,
excellent.
yeah. And everybody, I think, that was invited to join. There's a few that didn't, but yeah, so that was kind of a good deal. So that meeting was a startup. It was a startup.
And you felt it was productive?
I thought it was productive. I think
Very.
that the ongoing
Right.
meetings will be
A
more
few
productive.
people spoke that usually don't too,
Right.
so that
And
was
they made
good
good
to hear.
points.
Yeah, they did. You know, they made good points about what's affecting them. So yeah, I thought it was good. And I think the upcoming ones will be better. Sure, they'll be kind of dialed in.
And we talked a little bit about the minimum wage. That is a
Yeah,
big problem,
yeah,
a problem.
It's an issue, yeah, it's a
An
challenge
issue,
for everyone.
Challenge, very much so.
Yeah.
I guess the city's role in that is when you have an open forum like that, and when you have the discussion on ours, then if you could come back to this committee and let us know how the city can help facilitate some of your needs, how can we be of assistance? You know, and if it is, something like you wanting a speaker to come in and talk about hours and the importance of common hours, or just demographics of how people shop, perhaps the city could reach out and see if we could find someone.
Great.
But the whole role of inviting you to our economic development tourism meeting is to feel, so that the merchants feel like they have an open dialogue with the city, and that the city's being responsive to your needs, you know. So let us know what those are and how we can be of assistance or help facilitate some of your challenges.
Thank you.
And just so you guys are aware, I did unsubscribe from the listserv, and the reason why I did that is because I didn't feel it was fair for you guys to have this listserv amongst the businesses downtown, and then the city was intertwined into it, because it's really not our role. And if you guys are discussing something and it's tied into the city, it's open to public disclosure. Not that you guys are hiding anything, but I just didn't think it was fair that the city to be drug into that. So that's why I unsubscribed, because it's not my role in my department to monitor what the businesses are doing. So I felt that's why I unsubscribed. I think maybe other council members and the mayor may be signed up, and that's their role to do that, but I didn't feel it was mine. So if you say, hey, the clerk unsubscribed, why is that? I thought you were gonna be partners. Well, it's not within my role to be involved in that, so.
The other thing that the council members have to be concerned with, because there are council members that belong, we can easily create a quorum if we participate. So, you know, and do a reply all or something like that. So if you don't see a lot of activity for council members, there's probably a reason.
Fair enough.
Mhm.
And I don't think they're expecting any council participation, because it's really a new iteration. There used to be a different group, a Yahoo or Gmail, and this is just another new one. Yeah, so it's not really, it's just a different host is what it is.
I only see you and Beck at the meetings.
Yeah,
And
and
Mayor.
And I frequently, because they're the third Thursday, and somehow I've been having meetings on commitments on the third Thursday and haven't been able to attend, so. Is there anything else that we want to discuss under our educational piece, or we need to retitle that, it needs to be interaction or something, city and POBSA interaction or chamber interaction or whatever.
And then I guess I should mention one other little minor disclaimer. So when you guys are talking amongst the merchants downtown, we do get emails for people to add their events on our city calendar. And the clerk's department took a stance, and I believe we have the mayor's support, I can't recall directly, but that we don't list events on our calendar for a reason. And the reason why is because we can't be judgmental on the type of events, where they're being held, the time frame. So for us to have an event come through and say, hey, we want to add, we had a couple emails, and we respond to them and say, hey, we just can't be in this position. It's no different than the signage or anything else. So if somebody wants to hold an event and they want to put it on our calendar, we can't look at that event and say, oh, the city isn't supportive of that, so we're not going to put it on there. Or it's not within the city limits, so we're not going to put it on there. So until we have some in writing policies from the council level that says, hey, these are the type of events that we can hold and we need to put on our calendar, then we can. But in the meantime, it's just so open right now that we don't feel, or I don't feel comfortable that it's our role to accept an event for, a Vapors Lounge or, a Kitty's 5K run. I mean, it's just not our role, and we can't discriminate one way or the other, so we opted not to put any events. So it's just for city business functions on the city calendar
Can we
website.
refer them to a better calendar, maybe?
I mean, I don't know
There should be a
that-
calendar that is including a lot, even from the city.
Maybe the chamber's calendar or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think chamber would be the most
Yeah.
appropriate, but I can't direct them to
What
do that.
Matt has done is he has a clerk, he has a staff member that updates the calendars, and flow chart. If the event is nonprofit, it follows this line. If it's something else, it follows this other line. So I would, if you know of anyone that has an event, I would definitely direct them to the chamber.
And we do put events that the city reviews for. If they're holding an event and they put in a public event application or a special event application, we put that on our website. But it's not promoting the event, it's for a standpoint of safety, security, public awareness to say, hey, there's an event downtown, you need to find an alternative route if it affects you, that type of thing. So that's our perspective of why we put it on there. It's not promoting, one organization or event over the other. So that's how we can justify putting those on there.
So you have the marathon that's going on tomorrow from Seattle Children's.
That was
I wouldn't
yesterday.
have it except that I did a basket for it.
That was yesterday.
Or yesterday? Okay, whenever. I mean, those are the kind of events I wish we could.
I don't think it's appropriate for the city of Portage to put it on our calendar, but it may be appropriate for POBSA or the chamber or Visit Kids Out.
Maybe we should have our own.
calendar.
It's just, I wouldn't have known about
You do.
that.
You do on your website.
We have the Children's Hospital.
No, but you have a calendar.
We do have a calendar, and
So
we
how-
need to be on top of that.
So, where do we get the information?
Okay, that goes back to
is the
that
problem.
question.
Yeah,
And so we need some sort of procedure so that when council or when the clerk's office approves an event, it automatically goes out to certain, whether it's POPSA or the chamber. We've talked about that before.
And we're gonna do that as soon as, we'll start it this year with our special
Right.
event cycle, so we'll do
Yeah,
that.
I mean, on the table that I
The
have.
other thing that we do is we do get events that are in a certain area, and it doesn't meet the threshold of the code, so 50 and under people that are attending the event. So we wouldn't typically notify you guys of the event to put on the calendar, because we usually get calls and say, hey, we're gonna have 25 people, we're doing a little walk type of thing. Like, that's within the, there's no security that needs to be, there's no law enforcement that needs to be aware of it or anything like that, but so we're not gonna have the details of those type of events, but absolutely, if they meet the criteria of a special event, they go through the application, it's reviewed internally. Once we send out that, yep, it's, approved, then absolutely we'll include the chamber on that,
Thank you.
or POBSA, whoever.
Is there anything else under our merchant interaction section?
no, so, what we'll do though, I'll bring back to Kathleen, we'll add this to our board meeting agenda. So we'll talk about this specifically, so we can have some more engagement right
Okay.
now. Kathleen's just getting her wheels
Yeah.
down and get it rolling.
No,
So-
it's an issue we've had a lot with special events, is that we have had special events and the merchants were even unaware that they were happening. So it's an issue that we've discussed before. Again, I don't know what the resolution was.
And we have a plan, or I have a plan in my mind, and I have scheduled a meeting with my department to sit down and say, okay, this is what the idea, this is the goal. We have
Right.
some things that we have to put in place, but our goal is to actually have, a written process that says, anytime we get a special event, this is the procedures that we follow. One, to notify the public, the people that it affects, those type of things. And so our goal is to get that done and accomplished by April. So it's right before the season. It's including, maps and updating the public event toolkit, those type of things. So we're working there, but we're working on it, but we'll get there, so.
Brandy, would you feel comfortable putting links to the Chamber of Commerce and POPS's calendar as to refer people in that direction if you want to find events?
I think we might have something already. I know it's in our toolkit, but let me see if there's something on our website.
I would probably dismiss.
I think there might be something for when you're visiting, because typically a lot of people will go to Visit Kids App or the chamber when they're visiting the area. So I think we have them too, but I'll double check.
Beck, you brought up a point that struck my mind there on notifying the downtown merchants of events. I broadcast very loudly all of our events at POPSA, but there's a lot of members who do not come to those POPSA meetings. So is there an avenue that we need to be taking to notify merchants if they're not coming to POPSA to hear what our events are? For example, the carnival coming to town in July.
Right, again, those
Chamber.
are, yeah, again, we're trying to get, to me, there's two separate issues. One issue is getting the word out to the merchants that there's even a special events application in so they can comment on it and be aware of it. And then the other one is your own marketing for the event. You know, they're kind of two separate things. But once an event has been approved by the city council, and we've just changed our policies or our
Yeah, so-
procedures,
yeah,
so we're
in
kind
this
of,
limbo
right, we're
stage.
kind of limbo in that, some of them that meet certain thresholds are just done administratively now by the clerk's office. And then if they're above those thresholds, they come to city council. But once a special events application has been approved, that, we need, again, a procedure for disseminating that information.
Disseminating it out.
And
Yeah.
that's a piece that we're working
Yeah.
on, and hopefully will get finalized in April.
Yeah.
Or will get finalized in April.
With the new system in place, for example, of everyone signing up for the communication part of it, as Scott wanted to implement, I'm seeing people come on board that list that have not been coming to meetings. And there was a comment that received back from one of them, something to the effect of, does that mean that we're all gonna get blasted with lots of emails of people just wanting to say, this is happening? And is that gonna be an avenue, for example, that I could click on and blast it out to everybody, hey, here's our Fathoms event list, so that everyone has our event list and they would know what our events are if they don't come to POPSA meetings?
Yeah, that's a POPSA thing. The other thing is, I don't know, is that listserv just for paid membership?
I believe it is, yeah.
Okay, so there's members who aren't paid members in POPSA. Correct.
There
No,
are merchants who
they're-
are not on that list.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
There is no official list for all of the merchants. And one thing that hasn't been talked about is you probably do need to get it in different ways. For example, there are Facebook groups that may help you reach different ones.
For example, the art museum, she has a great list, and we have a lot coming up. So there's another avenue that we need to tap.
Yeah, we spoke a bit about social media and a
Right.
greater use of social media
Right.
as far as our Facebook page. And so there's some discussions. We've set the red rules around it. And so, and I think Kathleen had that down as notes for a future meeting.
Okay, again, bring, any way the city can help facilitate that, or just use this as a forum to pass information to.
Yeah, I was speaking, but what I was meant to say earlier is that we'll add that to our board meeting minutes, so we can have some discussion, so it's specific.
Okay,
And then maybe we can have more direct out.
Yeah, I understand.
okay,
Yep.
thank you. We are on to item number 2, which is our tourism promotion strategic plan. So if Lorraine and Kathy want to join us.
There's one chair you can share.
You want to pull another chair?
I'll pull a chair at the end.
Okay.
He's turning it on later. If you wanna, this is really quick. Take a packet and pass it down, Sharon, or start with Lorraine, I guess you should get some. Yeah, wasn't sure how many were gonna be here, so.
Um, Oh, this is the pass-down. Okay, keep passing. Thank you. Did we provide this?
You know, that's part of the packet, but not
Yeah, that's
to
your packets.
everybody, yeah,
For the two different handouts or just one?
just one from me. Yes, yeah, so I did not print the tourism plan for the lodging tax committee members, but I can get them printed and have them brought up in a couple minutes.
Why don't we do that, so that we're all working from the same document. So while Brandy's doing that, we will give an overview for Kathy and Lorraine in that this committee has taken on the task of putting together a tourism strategic plan. And we reviewed several different cities' formats, and we liked the simplicity and the content of the plan from the city of Anacortes. And so we were using that. At our first
With
go-
our data, it's got our data.
It's both right now.
Okay.
Okay, at the last meeting, what we had was, basically, our background information on the RCW, and, yeah, well, I'm gonna say she can have this too while we're waiting, because what's coming up is a red line version.
Yeah.
But what we did is we went through the first background area and made some changes. It was a fairly simple section because it involves the RCWs, and so what we have before us today that's been printed is that I have a red line version. Does everybody have the red line version? Okay, the red line version of the changes we made, plus adding in our specific information. So this is where we now see our specific information. And so what we wanted to do today was review this first section and get a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And this group is not making final decisions. This will all go before the council's work study, we hope in May or June, hopefully May, so that we can have something brought for council for approval in June. So this group is just going a thumbs up, this is we like this, or a thumbs down, let's work on it some more before we send it on to council.
And then I have two pieces to add before
Okay.
we move on.
Okay.
Okay. So the first thing that I have to share with you is the question was raised is regarding the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee and the members, how it's made up of what if we only had one hotelier? How would that work? So I didn't have an email from the auditor or MRSC on that aspect of it, but I did reach out to them in 2015 when it appeared that we may have, the committee was established, but we may have a member stepping down. So how does that affect the committee that's made up of? So for example, you have to have equal number of hoteliers as equal of members who benefit from the lodging tax, or who recipients of the lodging tax. And so because it would become an odd number, do we have to go back out and pick another one? Especially when we didn't have anyone, it would have been 3 to 2. And basically it came back that it's pretty gray in the code. They just assumed that everybody had 2 to 3 hotels in their city when this was, if we reached the threshold of having this. And so they basically said, hey, if you have set it up in good faith, to have equal parts and circumstances come up, and there will be, then you can just move forward as status quo. You should actively pursue if you have more hotels, to actively pursue them to try and participate, but we understand you can't require them. So it just basically says, hey, we understand the laws say that you have to have at least 2 or 3 members, but we understand if you don't have hotels, then it's kind of gray and saying, okay, well, you can't meet the law if it doesn't. So I know that doesn't help, but I think if we come into that position, we only have 2 that will participate, and we can only have 2 recipients. If we only have 1, then we can only have 1 recipient. So it's going to be a case-by-case basis. So nothing clear to put in here, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I mean, there's nothing in here that says, hey, you know, we're gonna change, we can't change it less than 2 members because the state law says you have to have at least 2. But, and we hopefully will have at least 2. But, I don't know, I know that probably doesn't make sense.
Right,
but
because
that's just
when
what
we read it, it says at least 2 members who are represented businesses required to collect the tax, and at least 2 members who are persons involved in activities authorized to be funded by the revenue received. So, at a minimum, you would expect 4 members, and so our question is, and because they have to be equals, but the clarification we were looking at is if we just have one organization that's collecting the tax, do we then just have one organization that is a recipient, and then we have a committee of 2? Those were the clarifications we were seeking, so.
Well, and I think our challenge was is we entered the game with 4, and all of a sudden something happened.
Correct.
And one dropped out in the midst of our process.
Correct.
Do we have to start back over,
Over.
or can we
Right.
continue in good faith with the process and then?
Right. Kind of 2
trying to
separate
add somebody
questions.
else?
What is the committee, the formation of the committee, what does it need to look like? And then if there's changes, how do we handle the changes? Okay, so I guess what I would say is, when we look at this, our background information here, that we need to put in here what the RCW says. And if we come up with an exception, then we would seek MSRC's or our insured's opinion on how we move forward.
Correct.
Okay.
And then the other piece that I have is that when you go down to the use of lodging tax revenues,
Mhm.
and it lists the requirements or the allowed use of the revenue, it gives definitions of, and I added operation, and then it gives tourism, and what does it say? Oh, tourism-related facility, tourism, yada, yada. And I know that we had talked, there was a conversation about we should probably, because we're not a traditional tourist community, so do we want to put the definition of tourist? And so I just went online and wrote the definition of what a tourist is, and a tourist is a person who is traveling or visiting a place for pleasure. And then I said, oh, okay, well, what is a visitor? And a visitor is a person visiting a person or place, especially socially or as a tourist. So I don't think that we need visitor by any means, but I didn't know if we want to include the city's definition of a tourist, or if
And
we
that
just
was
leave it.
brought up, I believe, by Matt, and he wanted tourist in there. And you looked at some generic definitions of tourist, because the RCW regarding LTAC does have that 50-mile parameter on it, that
For reporting
condition.
purposes.
For reporting purposes. And so what the question was brought before this group is, do we want to define tourists so that it's a person, what you said, visiting for pleasure, or whatever, that is within that 50-mile radius. And so we'll ask the group, how do you feel about?
Is this tourism promotion strategy specific for LTAC, or is it, I personally would think that if this is our overall tourism
Yes,
policy or strategy,
yes.
and which includes LTAC, but isn't, specifically for LTAC, I think the broader definition is, I think, better. It doesn't have to be somebody from 50 miles. I think somebody coming and visiting us from Paulsbo is a tourist to Port Orchard, and if they come and spend their dollars here and we can attract them, they're great. But I know that we need to, to comply with the RCW, have to report beyond 50 miles. But I think we'd happy to take anybody's dollar, whether they're from Gig
Yeah,
Harbor or
seems like
Paulsbo.
I would agree, and if you do the 50-mile radius, if you put, and
Seattle
do
doesn't
this.
count.
Correct, Seattle doesn't count. I'm not sure if we go all the way to Chehalis, but again, I would think that those communities in between Olympia, going out further, Bonnie Lake, I think anyone coming in from then should be a tourist.
Seattle doesn't count because
It's
Crows Flies, it's less than 10 miles across
That's what
saying.
we're saying, that we would like our definition for our general tourism strategic plan to be the definition that Brandy just mentioned. That does not include the 50-mile limit.
A person who
I don't
is
care if you come
traveling.
from Paulsville or
Yeah.
even.
That's exactly what I said.
Yeah, nobody does.
I mean, I get enough business that comes from that area, Seattle, that's tourism. There you, I mean.
Doesn't meet the state's
I'm sorry,
requirement.
I don't care, you live 3 blocks away, you wanna come and stay. Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's,
the goal is heads and beds, period.
And-
or spending money.
Or spending
down
money in
Yeah,
their
and-
downtown or wherever.
there. Right. And
Exactly.
again, I personally really look at the marina as a real source of tourism during the summer with all of those visiting boaters. And a lot of those boaters are coming down from, Port Ludlow or, Paulsbo, I mean, up from Olympia, a lot of places that are within the 50-mile radius, so.
So
Okay.
clarification, are we trying to make it possible to diminish that and not say 50 miles? Or is it concern just because of the way the lodging tax format is written by the
I think it was a clarification. The RCW says the 50-mile radius
Right.
for our reporting, okay? But for our policy, we're saying we won't
Yeah.
call that out. It's the broader definition of a tourist is what we're trying to capture. Anybody that's visiting from somewhere else, we don't care where that somewhere else is. Bremerton.
So do we want to?
Do you want to read the definition again?
Yeah, so, I don't know if it's Webster's dictionary, but Google's dictionary defines a tourist as a person who is traveling or visiting a place for pleasure. State doesn't define a tourist in the lodging tax portion section of the code, so do we want to include as our overall plan what we feel a tourist is for our community into this plan?
I would.
I'd say definitely.
And as long as there's not a legal reason that you have.
I mean, yesterday I had people from Canada and then I had people from Tacoma. I mean, they both spend a lot of money.
And my friends came from Puyallup and loved your store yesterday.
Thank you.
And again, the tourism definition is just for the overall plan.
For the overall
It
plan.
doesn't change the scope of what is allowable use for lodging tax.
Exactly.
Right, we understand.
Exactly.
It's just part of our plan that we're trying to attract any dollar.
Coming for pleasure.
Coming for pleasure.
Marketing tool.
So when we say coming for pleasure, we've eliminated coming for business.
It's not a tour, well, business typically isn't a
Tourism thing,
tourism.
so.
No.
Okay,
They
so,
might,
It might convert to tourism over here.
I would kind of debate that, the fact that people that come in for business, and whether they're doing business with the county or downtown, and they're needing a place to stay.
but they're gonna come and stay for
There you go.
business regardless.
Right.
We're trying to create a plan that is attracting people for pleasure, for pleasure. And if you're a business person here traveling, you might stay an extra day or two for pleasure. There's nothing wrong with marketing to that.
Sure.
And they might come back.
And they might come back.
That's what I hear more, is people come here for business and they love it. and they wanna come
Whatever
back.
we have to do to get them here, once they're here, they're sold.
Exactly.
This,
Well, and I was just wondering, I don't know where this fits in, but when you mentioned, Beth, when you mentioned the marina, that's almost a different strategy. The groups that come to the marina, in terms of they're not, they might be new, but there's groups that come, and how do we maintain them and make sure that they feel welcome so they always wanna come back?
okay,
And that might be different.
that's really important. It's a very, very important concept, and because you two weren't here last time, this first section that we want to get an up or a down on today so we can move forward is just the background of why we're here, basic definitions. And then we get into the meat of the plan, and that's goal, strategy, and action items. And that's where we would identify the port and working with the port as one of our important goals or strategies or action plans. But that is I think a key element in bringing people to Port Orchard and to get return visitors to Port Orchard. But I think I think it lives in the next section
Oh,
of the.
course, I didn't
yeah.
know where. I
Yeah.
just thought I'd better say it before I forget.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. So going on down, we're gonna add tourist to our definitions. And then
Which page are the definitions on? Is that the second page or?
they're under use of lodging tax revenues, they're the next one. They don't have a title and maybe they need to be titled.
No, that's fine. I think part of the confusion is that I think we all understand that we have a tourist commercial plan, but then we're getting into the details of the lodging tax. So I think that part there is a little confusing because we've certainly defined tourists as not the lodging tax definition of tourists.
Correct.
So if we're putting it in the lodging tax portion, it's a confusing place, just from a formatting.
Right. I think if we just title the definitions section.
And then it goes on to, we didn't change anything in the application reporting. And then we added our revenue history and projections.
Can you tell me what page you're on?
Oh, I know, and I gotta put page numbers, I'm sorry.
It's like,
It's the one with the graph.
There we go.
Yeah, yeah. The page that you just had up, Kathy, had no red lines on it. So we didn't change anything from, that's why I moved on. It's just basically our CW information.
And the graphics on this page is different than what was handed out earlier. So what this is here is the reimbursements that the city has paid out in the last 5 years to the lodging tax recipients. So this is, and we just broke it up into marketing and operation expenses. So you'll have those by the year. And then I just did an overall total by type of reimbursement, so like local advertising, printing, staff, dairy ridership. And then I just put it into a small pie chart and a graphic that just kind of says, okay, overall in the last 5 years, you know, what is the lodging tax reimbursements been spent on? So you can see, for example, in the first one, 24% of the lodging tax in the last 5 years is spent on local advertising and marketing. And then the next one is 23% is regional advertising and marketing. And it's all debatable pretty much. So what we did is we just took all of the lodging tax invoices that we received for payment and said, okay, in my mind, or Janine's mind, the one that prepared it, does it make sense that this be categorized as local or regional, or do we say that this is a, you know, an event promotion type of thing? So that's what this is, just to say, hey, based on our knowledge of what's being reimbursed, what category do we think it makes sense in? So that's probably what this is. If there's any disagreements, let me know, we can probably look into that. So that's what those are. Now this.
So that's a complete different set of data for everyone for your information.
Because I think we're gonna need those to get to, maybe the second
Correct,
portion of it.
when
to
we
say-
get into it further.
Yeah, but the graph that's in the plan itself, which is consistent with, the one that we're plagiarizing, is basically a collection history. So I can't give you, you know, exactly which hotel and all of that stuff and how much they collect because it's, proprietary information, I think. Anyways, but this is kind of gives you an idea of how much we have collected by month over the last 5 years to say, okay, are we increasing in our lodging tax, what we're doing for reimbursement and advertising? Is it benefiting the city, or do we need to change this plan to make it more, you know, put more heads in beds? So this is just what that chart is up there. And then the second graph or chart is the allocations, what was requested and what was allocated for 2016 and 2017 at the bottom portion.
So is there delay from the collection to
Yeah,
the
it's
stay?
a 2 month.
Okay.
Well,
Because
it's not
I
a delay
find it
from
hard
a
to believe
collection,
that
it's the,
October is your busiest month.
It is a very busy month.
so these,
That's when seniors
And
decide
go
to
to
travel.
so October and these
September and
numbers.
October are huge, yeah, and that's because they know that they can get rooms and there's no kids in those
Yeah.
rooms.
Kids are
They've
going
gone
back
back
to
to
school.
school, so you get all your 50 and older.
I would look at this chart and see August, September, and October that are the busiest months, and move them back a month. And
2
it's
months.
probably 2 months.
November, December.
So they collect, the state collects them, I'm sure, right away, but then it goes to the county and then the city, so we're at a 2-month lag.
We're
So
at a
these
2-month
numbers are
lag.
2 months.
And we pay quarterly.
Could be even more.
Yeah, because you pay quarterly probably based on your volume of business.
Yes, we guess hotels probably pay it. I mean, monthly.
Monthly, yeah, the other ones. So this information may be off a month or two, but it also shows you that we have definite seasons. And then the recent allocations, what we have here is what was requested and what was allocated for 2 years. And so is that what we want to show here, which is fine, or do we want to expand that and go 2 or 3 years or whatever?
I'm not sure that to the average person out there, why the request is, the allocation, having maybe 4 years of allocation is more important than the request versus the allocation.
Yeah.
The request versus allocation is the internal process with the committee and the city council. Joe Citizen only, I think, is concerned about what have we spent our money on, would be my 2 cents.
And I would be fine with that. I would be fine moving this if we have 4 columns to use 4 years of allocation. Because again, this is just the reference. And then, so we've made some decision points. We're gonna add tourists to our definitions, and we're going to change, we're gonna modify and put in 4 years of allocation history. Okay, then,
Do we want to put a footnote to this collection graph? Do we want to move it back 30 days, or do we want to put a footnote on it that
I would
says,
put the footnote, I wouldn't move it back, I wouldn't try to guess.
Or even
Ac-
parentheses under each month.
collect, or just a footnote that collection is
The
30
2-month
days
delay.
or 60 days after
Yeah.
a submittal by the.
Oh, yeah, so under, if you go back 1 page at the bottom in the revenue history and projections,
Oh, it does say that.
the chart below shows the last 5 years of revenue history grouped by month to demonstrate seasonality. Note that the lodging taxes are received 2 months after the room is paid for by the customer, i.e. the chart below, January revenues are from rooms rented in November.
What page is that on?
It's right before. I thought I had it, but I couldn't remember.
Third unnumbered page.
Yeah.
Maybe that paragraph's more relevant underneath underneath the
Yeah.
chart.
Gotcha.
Or italicized or something,
Yeah.
Okay.
just so that,
Yeah, because it says note that, and I can take
Right.
that note section and put it right underneath the graph.
Because I'm attracted to this shiny object over here, the graph, and I skipped over the text.
yeah, because there were no red lines on that text, that's why we
And I
moved.
remember seeing it somewhere, I just don't remember where. Like, is it in here? Is it somewhere else? Okay.
Then moving on, we have the comprehensive plan section, and what we did with that is we simply took the, in our current comprehensive plan, there are 3 tourism policy points, and that's what was put in here. Okay, then we had a value statement that was talked about last month, and what we don't see in this red line version is how we, what we looked at last month was a little different. Because I had retyped it and Brandy went right from, yeah, I've got it. I've got it here. Oh, no, it is the same, okay. We just, the value statement is to provide a supportive and connected community by offering a variety of year-round recreational and tourism opportunities. That's our basic value. That's what we want to do, is be supportive and provide a variety of year-round offerings. Then, the next section under goals and policies that you see there in this was not included in the one that you looked at last month. And I'm assuming, because I had retyped that either one, I didn't want to type all of that, or two, which I believe now is that this is not the placement for that information. I think this information should be placed somewhere else. So the main reason I'm saying that is I want everyone to know we did not go through those policies last time.
I just struck out the obvious that doesn't apply to us. Or added.
Right. So let's just put that over here for a minute, and let's go ahead and look at our vision and our mission and our strategic commitments. We said that the vision statement concerns the city as a community. We all recognize that our vision cannot be achieved through the efforts of city government alone. So our statement is cultivate and fund cultural activities, events, and festivals with positive economic impact for the benefit of residents, visitors, and local businesses alike. That was the vision statement we came up with. And then our mission statement speaks explicitly to the city of Port Orchard's role in realizing our vision. And our statement was enhance the local community and local culture by attracting visitors who stay longer, engage more with our small businesses, and make lasting connections with our community. And then we had a statement after that that says improve the local economy by attracting more visitors who stay longer, engage more, and experience more of our community, being more a part of the community while they're here making connections. The Cheers effect, where everyone knows your name in small businesses. So is there any comment on our vision or our mission?
My only comment is the verbiage, in that it starts with an action verb, and typically you want to describe in a vision statement the way that your community is, future tense, more so than you want to make it action-oriented. And so the previous statement, it says Port Orchard is a thriving Northwest Island destination, and the new one is more of almost a goal or a policy, because it starts with a verb.
I was thinking the same thing. You actually have two action items, and one of them you want to be, and it's just a matter of rewording that vision statement, so actually people can vision what we want it to look like instead of the action. So you want it to, I don't know. But anyway, you're right.
That we are.
Yeah, we are.
We
yeah.
are.
Mhm.
We are
a community that cultivates and funds
Yeah.
cultural activities,
Exactly.
something like that.
So do we just want to reword it where that red line is out? And the blue statement actually just say there, Port Orchard is a thriving, and we're not a Northwest Island destination, which Anacortes is.
But we're a peninsula.
Yeah.
Say we're a Northwest Peninsula.
Yeah. And we could say, rather than engages visitors in genuine community experience, we could say Port Orchard is a thriving Northwest destination, which cultivates and funds cultural activities.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get that, Brandy?
But it's recorded.
Oh, okay. Is that, are we getting a yes on that or a no on that?
I think so.
Yeah,
I
sounds
agree.
good.
Okay.
So replacing the comment that's in blue with,
What we just,
We're adding to the front of the blue, Port
oh, it's the
Orchard
front of it,
is
so we're moving,
a,
okay, this goes up.
Port
there.
Orchard is a thriving destination which cultivates and funds,
thriving Northwest destination.
private Northwest destination, which cultivates and funds yada yada. And then this red is still struck except what we've added to the blue. And then how would you do the mission?
I think the mission is probably okay.
Although it seems a little redundant because you have the blue text and the black text. Is there a way to maybe combine them? It seems like we're just restating the same thing.
You don't, mission and vision are different,
No,
Oh,
he's under mission.
Go under,
under mission.
Go down under the red.
But the blue and the black, it strikes
It's
me that
too
they're-
long if you're combining the two of those.
Well, they seem very redundant too.
I would agree.
So maybe eliminate the black. Yeah. Or
Just
something.
just
Just combine them.
Or just go with the first one.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eliminate the black.
That's fine.
Eliminate.
keep it simple.
I'm a little more worried.
And that makes it more in line with the vision. We just have one statement in the vision.
And who sees all this paperwork other than the council and?
What do we put on the website, I guess?
Once it's complete,
We don't have a bunch
I
of
mean,
drafts out
I just
there.
don't visualize anybody that's coming here to stay is gonna go in and read this.
no, this is just a strategic plan so that we have,
So staff has
For the
direction.
city.
yeah. Okay, then we get down to these strategic commitments. And we can look at those. Now, what we did do is we added that last bullet point, because it had been included in one of the other statements, and we felt that was inappropriately placed last time, and so we moved it to a strategic commitment.
I would just again say that under evaluate the community's capacity, it's, the formatting of that bullet point is different than the others above.
That's because that's the one we added.
Yeah.
So where are we? I'm confused. Are we still on the mission?
Yeah, we're strategic commitments, the red bullet, Nick's pointing out that
And his comment was pertaining to the
Oh, down
last
here.
red
red
bullet.
Okay, here we go. Okay.
brings up a good point, but the reasoning for putting it in was a good point too.
I mean, as written, it's a goal or an action item.
Right.
More so than a commitment.
I think what you need is you need a couple words in front of it to have the same format, something like,
Or are you putting it in, down in the goals, the next section?
But maybe our goal is to utilize the community's capacity.
Was your goal to find some way to, I mean, you say evaluate, so was there the intent to make sure that there's an interaction, something interactive that's always, a sort of assessing how we're doing? Because that would be that could be turned into another commitment, that there's a commitment for an ongoing strategy to.
I think Beck just made it into a commitment by changing evaluate to utilize. Now it's a,
Well, you
we're
take,
going to
you take,
utilize.
your bolded part would be community's capacity. Because we want, that's a two-edged sword, Lorraine. And one is, yes, we want to utilize all of our capacity to promote tourism, but we also don't want to overextend our capacity. Okay, so that's kind of the evaluate portion. So,
This car cruise weekend, how much bigger can it get? It's.
Yeah, so I guess the
Yeah.
commitment from the
Are
city
we-
would to say, hey, we wouldn't put a rock band concert, the Who's or the Doors or whatever, down, by the waterfront, because the city doesn't have the capacity, one, for security and to get the traffic flow and to hold all the people that wanna come and see these people. So I think the commitment is, hey, we are gonna just not blindly approve every single event that comes through because, it's an event, we want people here. There needs to be some sort of evaluation, so whatever that's worth, that's what we have to capture.
right,
into a
on the other
statement.
hand, we want to utilize the capacity as much as we can. But there,
I was just trying to help you find the words.
Right, no,
And
I-
it's a great statement, great system, great process, just, back to what you were saying, so that it fits with the other strategic commitments.
Well, what you could do is you could add word in bold capacity, put the rest of it after the colon and change the word capacity to scope. I mean, that's strictly if you wanted to change the format to fit the others.
okay, say that again, so.
Okay, so you would add the word capacity to the front of it and then a colon. So instead of like inclusiveness, you'd have capacity. The rest
Okay.
of the text you would keep.
Says, yeah,
But the word
evaluate.
capacity you might change to the word scope or something, because it sounds like we're talking about the scale of events that we want to see if we can maximize the scale, like larger, I don't know.
So you're saying capacity,
And the
Colon.
colon, and
keep
then
the rest.
evaluate.
Yeah.
Okay,
Evaluate the communities, yeah, I think.
I think that makes a little bit better sense.
Where it fits the format, and then you could tweak it from there.
We just want to make sure that the events that we're trying to attract are, we can accommodate them and that we're not overtaxing our,
Our
communities,
infrastructure.
our community's capacity.
Making sure it fits our.
Yeah.
The scope, the scale of it is.
Yeah.
That makes really good sense, that's a very good thought.
Otherwise, we're attracting, 500 people, but it costs us, our entire police department being down doing, control of some sort, and we're not taking care of, what other activities they're supposed to be doing.
It's a really very, very good.
Nick, you had a thought on your face.
Rather than capacity, I might use the word compatibility as the,
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
see, that's why we have everyone here.
And he has many good thoughts.
Okay, Brandy, are you getting all this? Yep. Okay. So,
Can I say,
Please.
before we moved on, I keep going back, to the mission, because I think I was sort of stuck there a little bit. And thinking about what is stated here, that we're creating this sort of cheers effect, this small part.
I think we struck that
We
section.
No, I know that.
Right,
I'm
but you're-
talking about the concepts that we're creating here. So we say, enhance the local community and local culture. That's the one we're focusing on, right, by attracting visitors. But the end of it is what I'm stumbling on, and making lasting connections within our community. It seems like what I see is we're making lasting connections with the world. I mean, I don't know that the world is the right thing to say, but what we're trying to do is making connections between our community and
How about with our visitors?
or something, because they go home and we've made a connection with somebody in Pennsylvania or Wisconsin, or I don't know what the right words are.
How about just changing out community with visitors?
well,
Want lasting
enhance,
connection.
enhance the local economy and local culture by attracting visitors who stay longer, engage more with our small businesses.
And make lasting connections.
Period, right there.
Oh, yeah,
Or with
we put a
them, because
period
they're
after
using the same
connections.
word twice in a sentence.
Yeah.
Or just strike the last 3 words?
Yeah, I think so, and just making lasting connections, period.
There's something else.
That's a good point. It sounds like we're asking them to move in or something.
We want you to go
Maybe we
home.
do.
Yeah.
Good
Don't
luck.
eliminate it.
Pass the test.
Is there something that's more personal than connections lasting?
I think people
When
fill that
people
last
leave-
part in with
Yeah,
their.
when people come and they stay and they leave, it's greater than a connection.
Yeah, their hearts are.
Yeah, I'm looking for,
relationships.
well, yeah, actually relationships might be, but somehow it's not encompassing what actually
It's not
happens.
warm and fuzzy.
It doesn't need to be warm fuzzy, it just needs to be.
I'm still connected to Tina Engelbart, who came for the chocolate festival and
Yeah.
stayed at your B&B.
It just, I think
Nice.
when we watch,
You see that?
when we watch people come, because we are in Port Orchard, and we see what happens while they're here.
Here's
You
synonym.
know,
I've got a
it-
list of synonyms for,
Okay.
Yeah,
for
it's-
connections.
In a very short time that happens.
Uh,
That's what we have.
impression that we're
Yeah,
wanting to leave
yeah.
with them, a lasting impression, is that,
I think,
impressions could be
Well,
good or
impression
bad,
may
but.
never come back.
Memory.
Connection, I think
That's true.
connection's a great word. It's not warm and fuzzy, but it gets the point across.
What word? I'm
Or
sorry.
bond was the
Connections.
other word that he said.
And make lasting connections, just period.
Yeah, I think that's a good word.
the other one I was thinking
Overanalyze that one.
is, and I know it sounds corny, but we really do make lasting friendships. I mean, those, and that's very personal, but that's what happens, is there are friendships. I mean, we may never see them again, but boy, when they're with us, there's a
Yeah.
friendship that develops between us and with the community.
But it is, and I know you said, it's broader than that, because it's people that come back and they ate down here and they shopped at the mall. They did all these things. We see it every day. They walk in and they see it for the first time. And I mean, they don't go home and see this. So it is the entire environment that affects their experience. Proximity to, I mean, you know all this stuff, but
And
It is
connections
a
is
deeper
probably a
word.
better word, but we're, thinking about
And maybe
something
we see it a
personal.
little different, more personal on our levels than else do. But yeah.
What I'm going to recommend is that right now we put the period after connections. And then we think about this and come back, and if there's something that someone has decided at the next meeting and we want to revisit that, we can.
What if you just put the word and make lasting personal connections?
Yeah, you wanna say personal.
It's kind of limiting. Connections are just,
Memories, I know.
It's simple enough.
yeah.
We should come
Yeah,
back.
people are gonna read it, they're gonna get
Oh,
the
I'm
idea.
okay with
Yeah.
connections,
I mean,
I'm
you
just
start
trying to
reading it.
satisfy
It's-
yours and
No, I'm
Beck's.
happy
No.
with connections.
Flowery with it.
Okay, and then this other section, these goals and policies that we skipped over, so you want to go back.
Go back one page.
Go back one page. I'm not sure this is where they belong. But I'm open for that. If my thought was we have a value statement, a mission statement, a vision statement, and some specific commitments. And then when we get into our goal strategy and action plans, that's where we may want to place these items. However, if we want to place these items in our vision and mission and commitment section, we would need to go over these right now.
I have a question. Are these listed in any way in a sense of priority, or do you see them as all being?
They are not.
They're just a
prioritized.
carryover from Anacortes's.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah, these are
This is working material.
yeah, right. Yeah, this is just what Anna Cordes had in theirs, and when I typed up the piece that we worked on last meeting, I had left these out.
I know.
so my recommendation would be that if we want to change the strategic economic value of the villager, we need, number one, we need more lodging facilities. That would be the biggest part. We don't have, in order to grow this, you've got to have more places for people to stay. We don't have enough lodging.
We'll get private sector investment when there's demand.
Yes.
No,
Abs-
correct. That's
Chicken or
why,
egg?
that's why I didn't know, because we would get into that under our goals, strategies, and action plan. That's why I was removing those from that section.
And of course, we're just looking at it at a glance from here, wherever else is information.
Right,
is anyway.
right.
When I look at it as a facility, and of course, days and comfort, I mean, there's often no place for them to stay. I mean, that would generate more cruise, not cruise.
I don't think so.
No, the only ones that are from the comp plan is the top of the
The
page.
the
goal
top
two,
ones
goal
are under
four,
the comp plan.
So why is the heading mission, vision, and commitments
That's
followed
just a
by?
carryover, I know. I didn't want to take it out because
Right.
it didn't make sense, but I didn't want to take it out because we hadn't discussed these and where they should go.
Right.
So this is just how Anacortes's, how they had their lineup done.
See, and the first part under background, the first page is just background. And then we come to the next section that says mission, vision, and commitments. Okay. And we started that, which is what was in the comprehensive plan. Then we came up with a value statement, a mission statement, and the vision statement, and then those commitments. So I was taking all of those goals and policies and putting them somewhere else under the goals, strategic strategies, and action plans.
Because they have a whole section on goals, strategies, and, I'm just looking at the index here, and it should, they got it, should go down there with that, but wouldn't the comp plan information go down to goals and strategies as well?
Yeah, it seems to me that you want your vision, your mission, your value statement first.
Okay.
You can have a section that is relationship to comprehensive plan, and then have all of your goals and policies sort of integrated.
Into this.
Yeah.
Okay, so did you get that, Brandy?
So you're gonna have value statement, so under mission,
Here.
Yeah.
vision, and commitments, the first thing under there is gonna be our value statement, right? And then the second would be our vision, and then third would be our mission, and then fourth would be our strategic commitments. And then we would go into goals, strategies, and action plans, and
These goals and policies then would go underneath that heading.
yeah,
Correct.
the comprehensive plan section and the goals and policies section would be listed under the goals. Okay, yeah, that makes sense for me too.
Okay.
Quick question, in the comp plan, when you identify goals, are those listed in any certain priority, or is it just, so like this goal
No,
to
but it's-
ED 9, there's no.
The goal is always first, followed by the policy to implement that goal. So it's,
Right.
Okay,
There's no prioritization.
so, okay,
If you're wanting to dive into any of these in depth at all, policy 7 talks specifically to Washington State ferries. We have a high-speed ferry now, so I think we need to be more global in that statement of ferry system and not say Washington State ferry, because we're gonna have our own ferry system. And I don't think we're trying to attract the users. The users are most likely, from our side, are most likely gonna be commuters. It's somehow, attracting people to utilize that ferry system as a tourism, tool in the evenings and the weekends, when it's not being used versus as a commuter
Well,
service.
right, and what we want to remember with these goals and stuff that are put right here, these are anacorteses.
Mhm.
These came out of no material from the city of Port Orchard.
Okay, so these need some work.
Exactly.
This whole thing is an ore, and we're mining it right now, refining it, changing it. It's
Right.
not gonna
It
be anything
would-
like it when we're done, but,
And it makes more sense if you think of 7 as kind of an anacortes because they are an island.
Yep.
And they're completely dependent on it.
Right.
We need to,
Which I'm sure is why I didn't put those in, bring those forward last time.
Well, there's some great goals and policies in
Right.
that city, let me tell you,
Right,
when I read this.
yeah,
Not
Yeah.
bad.
yeah.
it's a cool town.
It is.
Okay, so I think we got through our first section. So, the question I have at this point is, do we want to start under the goals, strategies, and action plans? At least maybe just review them and then come prepared next meeting. Then that would give us March and April to dissect them, to have something ready for council's work study in May. We would have March, April, and May's committee meeting, okay? So, we've made great progress in 2 meetings, and we've worked, we've put aside about an hour each meeting to do this. So, the way, just to go over the format of what Anacortes did, it says the meat of any strategic plan is its goals, strategies, and action items. In this plan, these elements are grouped logically but are not in any particular order of priority, except when introduced by a conditional phrase, each of these elements begins with an action verb. And then it defines goals are broad, high-level general statements that are not time-limited and are not intended to change from year to year. The strategic plan includes two types of goals. Service goals that articulate what things we intend to accomplish and services we intend to provide, and logistic goals that articulate how we intend to conduct work in general. Service goals relate to services provided to the public, and logistic goals speak to the internal mechanics of providing those services. And then there's strategies. Each goal is supported by strategies that articulate how to achieve the overall goals. Strategies may or may not be time limited, may or may not include action items, and strategies are not formal or binding policies. Policies should be adopted by a policy-setting body such as the City Council. And then the action plans. Each action plan is a specific, discrete task to implement the strategy. The action items defined in the plan may not all be possible or obvious actions that could implement the strategy, but are those items we have identified as it is able to implement over the course of the plan. So in our comp plan, we do goals and policies. And this is a little different format than we've used. So if you read through here, you can see how they use their goal, how they use a strategy, and how they use an action plan. So are we comfortable mirroring what Anacortes did, or do we just want to go to goals and policies the way, or use terms that we're used to? You could have a goal, a policy, and an action item. Or do we not want to say policy and just leave it at strategic plan?
I like what they have here under their, I guess, goal strategies and action items. For example, I really like what they've done with the allocation process, which is for their second goal. And I would almost set aside the policies for later because those are so more abstract. I think their actual strategies are helpful. I mean, the policies are too, but the policies are just, I would almost do those last. As you were reading this, I was thinking, trying to figure out, well, where do you think these policies exist and how do they dovetail?
Right.
I don't know that it's just another way of summarizing it.
Any other comments? So rather than prolonging this meeting, I would invite everyone to read this next section and come to the next meeting prepared to talk about it, and perhaps read the goals and policies that Anacortes had and take a look at those so that we have a basis for what we're discussing next time. Is that acceptable to everyone?
Yes.
Do we want to leave the at a glance section here and then go in detail, or do we want to, because this is repetitive to what you're gonna be seeing below, or just go straight into the goals, what is it, the goal, strategy, and the action?
I think the at a glance will come after we finish this section. This is more of a table of contents to me.
Okay. And so just leave it in place for now? Okay.
Am I seeing head nods
Yes.
on that, that process? sometimes it's hard to have a good discussion if we haven't all read it, because,
It's true. I
Yeah.
feel a little confused.
yeah. Okay. With that, Brandy has edits and updates that we'll bring to the next meeting. And everyone has this, the document, the draft plan to look at, and you also have the data, the supporting data to go with it. Okay. So we will go on down our agenda item, but as long as everyone is here, our agenda items, I think are pertinent to the community members we have here, if you want to stay and listen to that part of it. The next one is our wayfinding logo policy and usage. Uh-huh.
You brought up the Roger Brooks. Is this
Mhm.
something that you're doing now? I mean, this was up like 4 years ago or something, that Roger Brooks came and. is this-
Roger Brooks is
I
offering,
know we have said we have
Right.
the presentation, yeah.
right, he is offering free webinars monthly for the year of 2017. And we are showing those here in this room for anyone that wants to attend. We have signed up, and the first one was in January, the next one is February 22nd, and they start at 8:30 here.
So are the council members on that?
Someone.
Someone, whoever can, it's just open.
Anybody wants to attend,
Yeah,
And then
How long do they last?
30 minutes.
an hour.
An hour.
An hour more. The last one lasted over 2 hours, and Roger Brooks made the comment at the end that his intent is to have them only last an hour, because it was way too long.
And was he actually here, or was it?
Oh, no, it's a webinar.
Yeah, it's a, yeah.
We're just broadcasting it here in the chambers.
And what's
Yeah.
the topic of the webinar?
This one is gonna be
Or just generally, just
It's a
that
marketing specialist that tries to grow the
for
economic
cities?
vitality of small
Okay.
towns.
That's all.
Been around forever, thank you.
He has some great ideas.
Yeah.
If you haven't heard them.
Yeah, it's just an opportunity that we wanted to make available.
It's on our website already.
Not yet.
Okay, so we are moving on to, I must have put it in this pile. Our wayfinding, Brandy, I will let you start that discussion.
So it's my understanding that the Economic Development Tourism Committee wanted to look into whether we can trademark the wayfinding image. And so we had legal counsel look into that, and she determined that we can, and we just do it through the Secretary of State, and we're just trademarking the image. It's just for us to use, for people to use while in Washington State. This doesn't carry over to any other state or anything internationally. It just basically says, hey, the city has this image, and we're allowing other people to use this image in good faith for promoting and marketing.
Promoting the city and our activities.
Yeah, and so in order to do that, we have to obviously apply with the state, and then we also have to describe the, how we want the trademark to be registered, meaning, we have portraiture as 2 different words, and there's 2 waves, these are the colors, the elements, the paint, that type of thing, so we register with the state. And then we also have to tell them the type of classifications for the goods and services that we want the image to be, that could be on. For example, we want them to be on floor coverings, medical apparatuses, that type of thing. Not that we do, but we have to let them know what we are allowing the images to be on. And so this went to the Economic Development Committee. They provided some recommendations, and then it went to council, and council added a few more. So at this point, what the council and the Economic Development Committee feel appropriate for the wayfinding image to be on is, it could be on vehicles, it could be on jewelry, it could be on paper goods and printed matter, houseware and glasses, clothing, toys and sporting goods, wine and spirits. Let's see, advertising and business, food, drink, lodging, and personal and social uses. So we intend to register the trademark using those uses.
We have.
So, yeah, so we filled out the application, we're just waiting for payment to be processed and mailed off to the state. And along with registering it, the attorney also encouraged the city to have a policy for the use of the wayfinding logo, an application, a contract, and then we should also have some sort of codification of the purpose, definition, and use of the policy. So that is what is before you, is the terms and conditions of use for the wayfinding logo. Terms of use, the city's policy, there's two different policies, and one is for the, I should have highlighted it because I knew what the difference was, but now I don't remember. There's two, I think one was for the website and the other one was for printed materials.
I hope we can make it simpler.
I don't think it'll
I'm not
be
sure.
that complicated to the end user.
When it's done, we'll just have we have a one-page application.
Okay, why does the application say not for commercial purposes? Because isn't that okay if they license it from us? Like if they put it on jewelry? I mean, are they giving away the jewelry? I mean, we may need to tweak that or add another qualifier.
Yeah, the logo should not be used for political or commercial purposes, but if somebody wants to put the logo on T-shirts and sell the T-shirts,
That's commercial.
or, put it on a mug and sell the mugs.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that was left in there, but I will find out.
Okay.
Good call.
I just want to say thank you very much. I'm going to scoot out, but thank
Okay,
you
thank
for
you.
including me in this process.
Yes. Second Monday of the month.
Oh, so invited back for?
Yes.
Oh, sweet.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you.
And do we have your email, and I can include you on the email that I sent? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Randy, I had a question about this. I haven't seen the ordinance until now. It says that under use policy on the second page of the ordinance, it says that shall conform to the use policies established by the city council. And so the use policies seem to be these attachments, but the attachments aren't actually referenced in the ordinance. And it seems like council would either need to approve these for use by resolution, or they would need to be referenced directly in what is being adopted.
Right, and I don't know how the attorney envisions the council adopting these. I
Okay.
don't know that part yet.
It just seems to me that if you said that after established by the city council and say by resolution, then they can pass a resolution, and anytime you need to amend it, it would be by resolution. Unless the council is giving staff the authority to set administrative policies, in which case it doesn't have to come back to council, but they're delegating that authority. I just don't see that delegation of authority here.
I don't know, I'll ask the legal counsel. She's the one that drafted all of these up in the process, so I'll find out.
Can I keep it on our website and meanwhile?
So lodging tax recipients already have the authority to use the image
Based on,
for lodging tax
Agreement.
purposes.
Okay.
That was in the contract.
it was in the
that was
contract.
signed, Yes.
Good.
This is just to formalize that process and any others that wish to use it.
Okay.
And what we were really trying to get to is we want either special events that we have approved for the city of Port Orchard, or any event using LTAC money to use our logo in their marketing efforts. That's important to us.
Encouraging the use.
We have it on our website, you can click on any page, and it's always at the, all the logos are at the bottom.
And then the other
It's there.
thing is, we recognized an opportunity if someone wanted to put it on T-shirts or on mugs,
Sure.
or, other materials, and so we were trying to get to that.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Yep, thank you very much. So there's more tweaking on this, does it need to come back to this committee, or can it go to council?
If the committee is okay with the documents that are presented, then it would go to work study session for council. This is the process that the attorney developed, and if you're okay with the different types of uses, the application, the ordinance, contract, and then however the policy's been gonna be adopted by ordinance or resolution, I don't know that part yet, but I'll get that resolved before this work study.
Okay.
So I just didn't know if you wanna read over these to see, I'll check what she meant by commercial purposes, not allowing these for commercial purposes. So if you wanna just take a look at these documents and let me know if just something doesn't make sense. I don't know if she just copied these off or created her own, I'm not sure how she came up with these.
Okay.
If you see some more information that you want to be on the application, let me know, but this is just.
The application is actually pretty straightforward. It's these other documents that are like.
And these two should be in a form of a resolution versus, the way it's outlined now, I don't.
Because the application and the supporting documents
Seems to be the same.
that
Or
goes with
similar.
the application, that seems to be fine for people to use it. I will read it in more depth and pass along any comments. I don't happen to have any today.
It'll go, March's work study session, so, if you have any heartburn, then just let me know, because I think we'll meet here first before it goes to
Okay.
March work study session, so we'll have time to bring it back forward.
Okay.
But we'll leave it off of the EV tourism agenda unless directed otherwise, and bring it straight to council.
Because so they would need an agreement if they're not an event that a special event we've approved, or an LTAC recipient. Then they would need an application, or they would need an agreement and an application.
That, I'm not quite sure. So right now, the lodging tax recipients, it's embedded in their contract that they can use it.
Right.
But we don't give them any guidelines or tools or limited use, so they right now have free rein on it.
Do whatever they want to with it.
So I'll ask her if it makes sense that we may have to add some additional language in their lodging tax agreements that say, it just may be as simple as follow the resolution number that's adopted by the council for appropriate uses or whatever. It could be that simple. I would not imagine that she would want them to fill out another license agreement.
Right.
I think this is just for somebody downtown that wants to print T-shirts and put our image on there. They need to absolutely fill out the application, fill out a contract, and you're good to go. But I think
So
I
it's
believe
two
so.
forms, it's not, I don't think that's onerous.
No, it's just seeing all five of them.
And I think two of them,
And
like
two of them
Nick
are
had
the same.
mentioned,
Yeah, the terms are actually included in the application, so that's.
yeah, so I think these two here, there is two different purposes, and like Nick said, I think these should be in the form of a resolution. Maybe she didn't want to codify it, and that's probably why she just did a very simple ordinance. I'm not quite sure, but I'll find out for sure.
Okay.
So in theory, this is gonna be an agreement and an application.
Too bad you can't charge a business if they wanted to create cups, mugs,
I
hats.
think that is in the
whatever.
You
contract.
get a royalty.
That you get a royalty.
It is in the contract, yeah.
Okay.
Or somewhere in here.
Oh, but do you think
Application.
an upfront fee would be better than a royalty? Maybe? It might be easier. I don't
We
know.
have to administer it, whatever you do.
Yeah, and right
Could be
now,
both.
I do not
It's
believe,
just easier to administer.
Could be both, right?
yeah, right now, there isn't a fee to
It's just
even
a
apply and
royalty, right?
use, so I don't know if the council or the committee's interested in having a fee. I thought we had discussed at one point that it was.
What's the royalty basis?
No, we do, we we do. For nonprofit organizations recognized by the city, the state of Washington, and or the United States may be granted use of the wayfinding logo without a license fee in connection with merchandise for sale. For-profit corporations granted permission in connection with merchandise sales shall be required to pay a license fee, and the license fee shall be 5% of the gross sales amount from the first sale of the items bearing the wayfinding logo unless otherwise waived. For-profit corporations shall register this City of Port Orchard as a point of sale for said merchandise.
So right now, there's a license fee of 5%, but so once they have the product done and they're selling it, that's when we're gonna get the 5%, but there isn't a application fee, so we have a public event application fee, a processing fee, I don't know what you wanna call it, administrative fee, there isn't one tied to it, so if somebody wants to fill out an application, staff is doing this at no cost, basically.
What would that cost staff time to do? Process.
When we did the public event application process, I think it was like $125. I mean, because you're including all department directors to review it. You're including finance staff to process the payment, and then our staff to review it, send out emails, review it. I mean, so it's a couple hours worth of work.
But we
Multiple
took that
hours,
down.
yeah.
You calculated the cost, and council came back and said $50.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
At least we know what the cost is to do it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I can do an estimated cost and then have
That'd be
it
helpful.
prepared for the work study session, or if we want to bring it back.
Quick question, do we have a definition in terms of time frame of what the first sale is?
Well, it's the first sale, it's not the second sale. I buy a T-shirt and then I sell it to somebody else. It's the first sale.
You mean when you buy it from your manufacturer, or when you actually sell it to a customer?
Yeah, that's.
The end user.
Like Recognition Plus orders 500 shirts, they all say Port Orchard on them. You know that you've ordered 500, so it's based on that quantity, correct? So you've got a monitoring process that you're gonna be involved in.
That's
But
what
if
I think
but
there's
if they
an
were to
industry.
order another 500 batch, that's still,
It's the first, the way I
it's not
hear it,
secondhand, yeah. It's not
the
like
way I hear it
we
is.
get rid of it, it goes, we donate it to Goodwill, and then Goodwill now sells it at $1.50. We don't get commission or whatever off of that second sale, it's the
Right.
first
First
sale, first
Okay,
production.
so in that case, Recognition Plus gets that, and they buy 500. And then they sell 250 of those to Fathoms and 250 of those to POBSA. It's on that first sale of the 500.
Correct.
It's not on the rest of the district. That's how I would
That's my
say it.
understanding of it, but I.
But
My
we-
question is, do they pay for it when they create it, or when they collect the money from the sale of it?
Well, I
You'd have
think,
to
it's
have
my
enough
understanding
fun
when
because
it's,
you're gonna have a tracking nightmare.
Okay.
I think they have to, anything
They're the
that
ones
you-
that would be getting the license agreement.
Right, and then they have to, somewhere it said point of sale, so it's the same thing where, I don't know what it is, so when Walmart has all of these items and they have to code it for a point of sale to who's getting the sales tax, I'm assuming that's how they have to code it, and then the Allen's department will double check to make sure that, hey, we're coded as this, so it's just like people paying their cell phone tax, and they have to code it to the city of Port Orchard for the city to get revenue. If they don't code it that way, then somebody else is getting it, so I'm
Can
sure
you-
there's gonna be some finance
Yeah, can you
department.
come back with some clarification?
Not having read all of that, I just wanted to throw this out. One of the things that we have to do with Seroptimus International, we can't market any keychains, any clothing, anything without their approval of use of our logo. We have to pay a $50 fee to use it, number one, but we also have to show them a sample, and they have to approve what we're gonna market.
And I don't think that city's doing that extreme. It's just, hey, you wanna use it, this is the rules, and good faith of using it.
Yeah,
It's gonna be complaint driven.
doing
Well-
good faith.
And that is a good point. I mean, when we developed the logo, there were policies in the logo for
Right.
the appropriate or inappropriate use. And so
That's
how do we
right.
ensure that somebody doesn't change the font or move things around in such a way that it's gonna,
We've had that happen with SIA. That's why they established the rules that they did, because we've got so many clubs across the country that a club club says, oh, well, let's just do it this way, and they do it that way, then they get caught, and they can't market it.
So
But I
either
think-
you just allow it and here it is, and it's gonna be complaint driven, or you have some sort of formal staff person that sits there and monitors it from,
And then
Day
that's
one,
gonna be
and
more
I
expensive.
would
don't think it's
suspect that
worth it.
Yeah.
it's probably not gonna be a high volume of work for somebody to do, but you never know, and
But-
I don't know that that's.
Periodically or something.
What I hear from what Nick said is those organizations that want to use our logo exactly the way we have it will go through this process. And those that want to take it and tweak it a little bit and go ahead and use it, we have no control of that.
Cause we're only registering what we tell
But your
them, the
logo
pan
use
code, the color,
tells you
the squiggly
exactly
lines, yeah.
How
And-
they wanna use it in that.
And we actually sent to this, or will be sending to the state, the pin that's, because you have to also have it in use before you can register it. So I had to go back and find when we first originally used it on printing materials and then the pin. So they're gonna have samples of that. So I would say that anything that's skewed outside of the samples that we send them is not gonna be registered, and we have no control. Now, if somebody I don't know.
I think it's 20%, the older 20% of the artwork that it's no longer covered, I think. If I remember back to my little trademark days. We're not the Rolling Stones, so I don't see
Someone marketing it.
I don't see people, working like counterfeiters at night to try to.
And I don't know, it's gonna be it's gonna be,
I
either
just
the
don't
city
see it.
takes a chance that they go ahead and move forward with this process and in good faith that nobody's gonna,
Yeah.
alter it and misrepresent anything for the city. I would assume that if it does, then it would be up to the city council whether they would repeal the use of the public using it. I mean, I don't know, it's either,
My only concern is I just like clarification on when this 5% is expected to be paid. Maybe Alan can answer that.
so I'll reach out to him and find out, cause I don't know that part.
Yeah, I'm just curious about that, because it's probably very straightforward. I'm just worried that they have to wait till all their retail sales are in before they actually,
Yeah,
and it's not.
I don't think that.
Okay.
that's it.
Okay.
And then our last agenda item is the downtown parking, and Dave has gone, but at our last meeting, there was questions about parking. And what the mayor provided us is the old map, the old brochure and map that we had.
Was that on our website? That's nice.
It was. but
It
it
was,
old.
and then, where he provided a copy of Bremerton's parking brochure and information. And, yeah, this brochure has a date of January 2011, so it's dated. And then he also provided some information on the merchant parking that's available downtown. And I'm remembering reading that ordinance, and there was something like 30 spots available. I'm not sure. Maybe, I know it's $30 a month, but he provided a history of what merchants are using it. So there is an opportunity for the businesses, the downtown businesses that need employee parking, that there are spaces available for $30 a month for employee parking. And would they get a hold of your office, the city clerk's office, for the parking permits down there?
Finance.
Finance. They would get a hold of finance. And when we go back to the brochure,
Speaking of parking, do we have a time limit outside?
yes, 2 hours.
Yeah, I'm watching the clock, believe me.
Um,
I've been nailed every time.
The fact of the brochure to me is I get confused in that I think we should do a new brochure, and then I think we should make the PDF available to merchants and they can have them in their stores. I don't see any reason for the city to print a bunch of these brochures, because if someone's driving in from Chehalis,
Yeah. You put it on your website.
It needs to be on the
I'll
website.
have Fathom say,
Right.
city parking, click
We need a much better map than this too.
But I think Brandy's office is working on
Okay.
that.
We're working on a map, that's one of the things that we're working on for the, notifying the public of events. So we received from the chamber the list of parking stalls, the number, the locations. And so our office is tasked with creating a map to give to, somebody, I don't know, to say, hey, here's the alternative parking. If you come downtown, these are the areas that you can park. It's part of the, special event toolkit that will be part of it. So that way, if you're hosting an event, you need to educate your constituents to say, hey, if they come to town, here's where they can park. So that's what we're working on. But as far as, where the merchants can park and the parking lots downtown, what's paid, that's something that is under the purview of the finance department. And that's the purpose of that one, is because they needed to identify, depending on which parking lot, how much it was
Gonna
cost,
cost.
and if it's monthly, weekly, daily, whatever. So that's why they created that brochure.
Okay.
And I'm sure that I can get together with Alan and ask if his staff can update that to be passed out to the downtown merchants so they know where they can park.
Be good.
But I'm not quite sure, outside of that, how useful that brochure is.
That was my thought when I looked at it. I didn't see a need for this brochure to be replicated necessarily. But the information, if the merchants want it, and also for them to tell their clients if the clients are having a hard time finding a place to park, let them know. But I think most people coming into town know where they can park. I think it's more the special events, and we're going to have Brandy's new information. You're looking at the code book. Did you find
So
something?
I didn't see that it was limited to the number of stalls, but it just defined the actual area and the guaranteed parking spaces between 4 a.m. and 10 a.m. except for Saturday and Sunday and federal holidays. And then it is a $35 fee per month for merchant parking rates.
Okay. With the rest of your groups not here, will that parking information help
I
you?
think so.
Would that be good?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is an issue all the time. The more information they can get, the better
Okay.
it's going to look.
And maybe you could mention at the POBSA meeting this week that there are merchant
Right.
spots
I will do
available.
that.
Yeah, for the $35.
I will do that.
Okay. Is there anything else that the committee wanted to discuss this morning?
We did discuss at our meeting, the owners of the stores parking in front of their shop.
Okay.
Whether that helped or, but it is an issue. And they do it all the time. Yeah, in front of, I tell my girls they can't park on the street. Find yourself a parking area. But they do it, and I don't know how hard.
I don't think your employees are the problem.
No, not mine.
Yeah.
No, I'm thinking
But
across
other
the
merchants,
street.
yeah,
They're
park
parking
in front
right
of
in front.
Yeah, it doesn't
We
encourage
talked
people to come in and shop
No,
on
for goodness
impulse.
sake, what a marketing plan they have.
But again, most of them park in front of their neighbors.
Yeah.
Well, good
Well,
job, you guys, you've done a lot of work.
They have, it's wonderful. Thank you guys for
Yeah.
inviting me.
Yep.
I'll go move my car so I don't get a ticket.
Oh, speaking of
Cities, those are
parking,
booked